go. There we go. Little brownie hit the olive flash Paragon, size 16. Got a 2.5 inverted on the bottom. You can see this nice, we had a nice slow eddy here. This bit of dark water right here. I was just working that edge. Actually, not really the edge, just kind of taking it right down in the middle. It's maybe 5 feet wide. Took it right down the middle, and he hit right in front of me, and that was probably 15 feet in front of me. And I started below here, and I've kind of pecked at him right here. I'm catching small fish. It's October. It's cold right now. It's in the 40s. I'm in central Pennsylvania. It's absolutely beautiful, you can see. But you know, there's been a bit of a pattern where, you know, you just kind of slowly peck at them in the morning. Once the temperatures start warming up, the fish do get a little bit more active and they start moving up into the skinny water. But right now we got to peck at them. But what I'd like to do for today's video is I really want to talk about what I do before I make the cast. And there's 5 tips or 5 things that I'd like to talk about. It's really important that we think about what we're doing before we make that first cast. So in this case, so first of all, it's fall, and we have the typical fall, early fall conditions, low, super clear water. So I was able to, I came behind here and I just slowly slipped up into this area. I didn't make a big impact. I wasn't creating waves or splashes. So I just kind of slipped up in here, and I made sure I was in the correct position to make my cast. I wanted to make my first cast count, and I was able to do that. So I slipped up in here, and I had made, you know, a couple casts here to the left, but I knew the meat was right there in the middle. Slipped up in here, made a nice cast, and caught that nice little brownie. So let's continue to fish and see if we can pick up a few more. So this area is really slow, but you can see there's a rock out there. So in water like this, you just saw that one jump out there. In water like this, it can hold a trout. Now, there's a bit of a, I'm at the end of this island here, so you've got this gravel bar. So I'm gonna just slip up on it, stay below, and before I go and hit that rock, I'm gonna hit this edge just to see if there's anything out there, because I don't want to spook anything on my way out to that juicy spot. So slip up here. Let's make a couple casts here. There we go. Almost did a really bad job of managing my line there, but I got lucky. So, a decent one. So there's 2 rocks. I'll talk about this guy in a minute here. Let's get him in. Respectable. So, when it's cold like this, I mean, it's just, I mean, they hang out here in the winter time, but got him on a size 14 Jack Daniels. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. So let me just tell you how I position myself here. So once again, you can see this, there's a trough right there. There's a gravel bar formed by this island. So I just slowly moved up, and this is the kind of water that will create waves. And there's a rock there and a rock there. That fish was just on the other side of that rock. That was a far cast. That was a 30-foot cast, and which you have to do because it's crystal clear. there's some depth here. It's probably 3 feet out there, and I can easily see the bottom, but I fished this water in front of me, and I slowly moved up, and I was fishing. I wasn't perpendicular. I was fishing in front of me, because if I'm perpendicular, these fish are going to see me. It's too clear. You got to learn to fish in front of you. So I just positioned myself in the perfect spot, very little impact, no waves, made a nice cast, and got that decent brownie. Here we go. So I put a, I switched over to a 3-3 bead, size 14 waltz. And once again, I'm standing over this really slow area, and I just slipped up here. Thank you, little brownie. Boy, I'm catching a ton of those little guys. I just slipped up in here, not making any impact, not creating any waves. And you can see this dark area in front of me, but he was on the other side on that edge. But once again, not perpendicular, he's ahead of me. So you really want to, one piece of advice I would give you is learn to fish more in front of you instead of perpendicular. Everybody wants to make that up and across cast, and you can actually do it in this water, but only if it had a little bit of color to it. It's too clear. If you get perpendicular and you want to get your sighter elevated in front of you, you have to have some sort of an obstruction, or the water needs to be a little bit more cloudy. So when you think about positioning yourself, make sure you have something in front of you, or just cloudy water or off-color water that's gonna hide your presence. Because if you don't have that, you really got to fish in front of you. And honestly, under most circumstances, I would say 80% of my fishing is in front of me and back. So you really got to learn how to do that. It's definitely going to put more fish in the net for you. You see this nice bubble line here. So what I want to do is, I don't want to fish on the bank here. I'm going to step out in the water, and I'm going to try to fish straight up and back to me. Always staying below the fish. I want to get the correct amount of line out over here, away from where I'm casting. I see a lot of people stripping line, hitting the water, stripping line, hitting the water into the area that they want to fish, and all it's going to do is scare the fish. So do it away from the area that you want to cast. Let's just slip over here to this root ball. Here we go. There's some roots extending out, and I really felt like there would be one there, and sure enough, got that single Jack Daniels on. He's a little guy, but rewarding. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. Little Mr. Brown. So once again, I am working the water in front of me back, but here what I did is I was able to get back down into the water. I'm standing, I don't know, it's up to my crotch here. So because I'm in a little bit deeper water, I'm not hovering above here so where the fish could see me. So I'm a little bit lower. It's cloudy, but there's a lot of shade and it's dark over there. So I was able to slip in here with very little impact, make a cast. And that was a far cast though. That was probably a 30-foot cast. It was right on the edge of that root ball, and I popped that guy. Okay, I put on 2 flies here and just up my weight a little bit. I think this is gonna be perfect to fish it now. There we go. I put on a Spanish Bullet Paragon. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. So once again, I've positioned myself. I'm not standing over here on the bank fishing perpendicular. I've positioned myself below this run, slipped up in here, just fishing upstream and back to me. Now what I'm going to do here, I want to get vertical, but I don't want to do it from here. So I'm going to slip out here. I'm going to move up kind of in the middle. It's still, when I leave, I'll have to come back around probably, but I can fish that other side as well. So let's slip on over here. Take a couple casts right over here before I do that. And you can see I can get low and I can fish more across from me. There's a fish right there. So it's helpful, even though it's a little guy. Trust me, you'll scare those guys too. So, get my cigar out of the mouth. So it's helpful, I dropped down into this little gully here, and I was able to keep a low profile, and I was able to fish across from me without spooking that fish. So once again, all about positioning before I even made the cast. So the next thing I want to talk about, the second thing we need to do after we figure out the best position to be in before we make that cast, is you need to be in a comfortable fishing position. So what we don't want to do is take our time to get in a position and then not have our shoulders squared to the target, because we want to be accurate. We want to make our first cast certainly count, but we want to be smart and we want to be accurate. We don't want to be throwing, you know, having our shoulders, if we're not square to the target. So right now I want to fish this way back. So if I'm standing perpendicular and I throw across my body like this, what's going to happen is the bugs are going to go way left. They're going to land in the shallow water, and then what our natural reaction is to whip them back out and do it again. So one thing is, if you make a bad cast, fish it out. You don't want to be jerking it through the run and screwing up the water. So we want to make sure we're positioned, our feet are flat on the bottom. We're not going to be casting while we're walking. So move into position, square your shoulders to the target, and really focus on where you want to put it. Be comfortable, no high sticking, arm bent, fish out in front of you like this, your hand right in front of your chest. That's the most comfortable position. And just take your time, focus on the area, and be accurate. There we go. Hit the Spanish Bullet again. Boy, I've been fishing all morning, and you know, I just started filming a short while ago, and I am getting a steady dose of these little guys. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. Okay, there's a nice run on the other side here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down. The sun popped out and I can see the bottom here. So I'm going to go ahead and get in this run. My profile is low. Now I can make some nice casts over there. I got to pay attention to those limbs there though. Square their shoulders. Get the line out. There we go. Oh, nice fish. And see, I was able to get that guy because I dropped down low and I actually swung it below me. And I was able to do it because my profile is really low to the water. He hit the Spanish Pezon again. A little bigger. Boy, he's pretty. God, he's a good looking brownie. Beautiful, beautiful brownie. Love those spots. Thank you, Mr. Brown. So I dropped down in this gully. My profile was really low to the water and I was able to fish directly across from me and even below me, and I swung it and he hit below me. If I was standing up high on the bank, there's no way. Once again, this water's so clear, you would have had a really tough time getting that fish. Let's see if we can get any more over there. I'm gonna fire one up there. Swing it under those branches. Just go low to high. There's a nice fish. Real nice fish. Once again, I keep repeating myself, but that fish is in really shallow water, and I was able to get that just by dropping down here, keeping a low profile, squared my shoulders to the target, did a nice low to high, and got under those limbs and got this really nice brownie here. It's a nice fish. Yeah, real nice brownie. He's close to 16 inches. Boy, what a beautiful fish. Good looking brownie. Look at this. Gorgeous fish. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. Thank you there, buddy. Right, size 16 Spanish bullets. Go. Oh, nice jumper. Nice jumper. All tangled up on me. Hit the dropper. Jack Daniels on the dropper. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. Good looking guy. So let me just talk about that fish here and what I did. So you can see a lot, if you watch me a lot in my videos, you'll see that I have my finger extending above the cork and it's on the base of the rod. And what it does, it helps tremendously with accuracy. And nobody really talks about proper hand placement when casting, and it really, really is helpful. So this is the third thing I want you to be aware of. So the reason I have my finger on the base of the rod is, you know, if I were to ask you to point at, so there's a rock out there with leaves on it. So if I were to ask you to point, you would take your index finger and you would point at it. You wouldn't take your thumb and point that way, right? So a lot of people cast fly rods with the thumb. And the problem with that, you can do it. You can absolutely do it. Let me put my hook and hook keeper there. You can cast like that, but the problem with it is it will lead to inaccuracy. And the reason being is a lot of times when you're casting, what I see people do is they tend to get they don't really focus on the casting, and they're looking, and when they cast, the rod goes out. But you can see, you know, this is a 10-foot 9-inch rod, and it looks like I'm casting at that rock with the leaves on it, but my rod is pointing to the left. And that's only the difference between that and that is about 1 inch, but this is a long rod, so I don't know the math here, but when I move my thumb 1 inch, the rod point goes about 1 foot. So if it's 2 inches, it's almost 1 foot per inch. So when you cast like this, a lot of times it's easy, and usually if you're right-handed, you favor the inside. If you're left to the left, if you're left-handed, you favor the right. It always kind of goes in to the inside of you. And what I want you to do is, if just take your hand like this, right? If your thumb is like this, just straighten out your hand. And when your hand is like that, it's easy to bend it to the left and to the right, right? Really easy. Now, if you take your hand and turn it like this, if you try to bend it inside to the left, it's a lot harder, right? So if your finger's like this, it's very, very hard. But like this, you can see, right? So when we cast like this, I like the finger there because you usually point at your target and the rod extends up and it follows your index finger. So it's gonna lead to extremely accurate cast. So if you've been casting like this, get out of that habit, put your finger on the top of the rod, point where you want to cast, and the rod tip is going to follow your finger each and every time. So just focus on that. Just practice at home, and you'll see how accurate it is. And before, I was doing an offhand cast, and I was putting it exactly where I wanted it because I was pointing my finger, and it landed exactly where I wanted it. You know, the next thing I want to talk about, the fourth thing I want to talk about, is fishing with intent. And we need to do that before we make our cast. And what I mean by that is kind of a mindset. It's fishing with purpose. Really have confidence in what your fly is, have confidence in your ability to read the water. And once you've established that, then you will become laser focused. Fish with intent. Really believe in what you're doing. Have confidence in it. And when you fish that way, it really, being laser focused is just huge. You know, a lot of trout fishing is problem solving. And, you know, reading the water, trying to figure out what they're biting on, where the fish are during the day, all that is problem solving. But we can do things before we make that cast that really, you know, we can solve 50% of our day. 50% of the success of our day can really be attributed to what we do before the cast. That's why it's so important. So just get laser focused, believe in what you're doing, and fish with intent. There we go. Boy. So the fifth thing I want to talk about, well, I lost that guy, but the fifth thing, the last thing I want to talk about is, it's just kind of a follow-up to fishing with intent. And it's expecting a fish on every cast. And I expected that fish. I came up to this hole and it just looks really juicy. Slipped up here, made a nice cast, made a nice drift on my first cast, and boom, he hit it. Now, even though I lost it, boy, I haven't really lost that many today. Even though I lost it, just everything came together because I expected. I don't waste casts, and you don't want to go out there and just waste casts. You don't want to kind of needlessly be flailing the water. I see a lot of people do that. I see a lot of people just stand in a spot, you know, concrete in the boots, and just cast and cast and cast and cast. And, you know, my big thing is, if you didn't catch it on the first 20 casts, you're probably not going to get it on the next 20. And what happens when you do that, your form starts to suffer. And you're not even thinking anymore. You're just kind of on autopilot. You want to fish expecting a trout on every single cast. Sometimes I fish, especially if you get to a really great looking area, sometimes I fish, I make a cast, I know it's a great drift, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for that sighter to move, and I'm floored that I don't get a fish. I mean, I'm surprised that I don't get a fish, and that's the way you want to fish. You don't want to hope to get one. You want to expect it. And it kind of goes hand in hand with fishing with intent, because when you fish that way, success will come to you. Just expect that sighter to move. And once again, it goes back to focus. I mean, it really makes you hone in when you're expecting a fish on every single cast. I like over there a lot. There we go. I just expected it. I just had confidence in my cast, my abilities. Just a great looking spot. And I just expected that fish to hit. Nice little chunk. Boy, he's a fatty. Good looking brownie. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. Thank you there, buddy. Fish with intent, fish with purpose, expect that fish to hit. So I'm gonna be calling it quits here in Central PA. Boy, I had a heck of a day. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. You know, like I said earlier, 50% of what we do out there is problem solving. You know, what are the trout eating? So what type of bugs do I need to use? What water type are they in? What pattern is being established during the day? But the other 50% we can take care of before we make that first cast. And when you do that, it's really gonna set your day up, and it's really gonna lead to more success. You know, how do we position ourselves to best fish the particular area that we're trying to get to without any impact on the water or spooking the trout? We wanna do it in a stealthy way. Square your shoulders to the target. Make sure we're accurate using that finger, and it's just going to lead to more accurate casts. Fish with intent, you know, fish with purpose. Don't sit there and with concrete in your boots and just kind of mindlessly cast. You know, you want to have a plan, be confident in it. And lastly, expect a trout literally every cast you make, and be surprised when you don't catch one. You don't want to fish with hope. You want to expect it happening every single cast. I hope you liked this video. If you did, I'd appreciate if you give me a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing, I'd appreciate if you would subscribe. And as always, tight lines, everybody. I'll talk to you later.